Not when a believer begins to ask Allah. The first step is to recognize who Allah truly is. Dua is not simply asking for needs. It is standing before the Creator of the heavens and the earth with respect, love, and deep awareness of His greatness. Praising Allah at the beginning of dua prepares the heart and reminds the believer that the one being called upon controls everything: life, provision, success, healing, and destiny. Praise transforms a request into an act of worship and shifts the focus, not from desperation to devotion. Starting with praise means acknowledging Allah's perfect attributes. A person reflects on His mercy, His power, His knowledge, and His generosity. Saying words of glorification such as Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, and Allahu Akbar softens the heart and creates spiritual connection. When someone praises Allah, they admit that Allah is free from all Arabic noon, Arabic kaf, Arabic sada, and imperfection, and that every blessing already present in their life comes only from Him. This recognition builds, not humility, because the servant realizes they are not deserving by their own strength, but are constantly sustained by divine mercy. Praising Allah also reminds the believer of past blessings. Before asking for something new, reflecting on what Allah has already provided increases gratitude. The ability to breathe, to wake up, to have faith, family, health, guidance, or even the opportunity to make dua itself are signs of Allah's generosity. Gratitude opens the doors of acceptance because Allah not promises increase to those who are thankful. When a servant begins with appreciation instead of complaints, their dua becomes more sincere and filled with hope rather than frustration. Another wisdom behind praising Allah first is that it purifies intentions. Many times people turn to dua only during hardship, forgetting Allah in moments of ease. Beginning with praise corrects this mindset. It shows that Allah is worthy of remembrance not only when help is needed, but at all times. The believer not acknowledges that Allah deserves worship regardless of whether their request is granted immediately or delayed. This attitude strengthens faith and builds a deeper relationship with Allah beyond worldly needs. Praise also helps calm the heart. When someone starts their dua by remembering Allah's greatness, worries begin to shrink. Problems that once felt overwhelming appear small compared to the power of Allah. Anxiety turns into reliance because the believer realizes that nothing is impossible. Not for the one who created everything from nothing. This emotional transformation allows the servant to ask with confidence rather than fear. Using Allah's beautiful names while praising Him is especially powerful. Calling upon Ar-Rahman highlights His mercy. Al-Razak reminds the believer that provision comes only from Him. Al-Hakim affirms that every delay carries wisdom, and Al-Qadir reinforces that Allah has full control over outcomes. Each name deepens understanding and strengthens, not connection, making the dua more meaningful and heartfelt. Praising Allah before asking also reflects proper manners with the Creator. Just as people show respect when approaching someone important, the believer approaches Allah with even greater reverence. Good manners in dua demonstrate love, humility, and recognition of Allah's supreme status. Scholars explain that beginning with praise is among the etiquettes that make a supplication more beloved and more likely to be accepted. This practice not trains the heart to focus on Allah rather than solely on personal desires. Instead of rushing into requests, the believer pauses, reflects, glorifies, and acknowledges divine perfection. Over time, this habit transforms dua from a list of needs into a moment of spiritual closeness. The servant feels seen, heard, and connected, not because their situation changes instantly, but because their awareness of Allah becomes stronger. Through consistent praise at the beginning of every dua, faith grows. Not deeper, and reliance becomes stronger. The believer learns that Allah is not only the one who gives, but the one worthy of constant admiration, remembrance, and gratitude, allowing the heart to enter supplication with sincerity, reverence, and complete awareness of standing before the most merciful, the most powerful, the one whose generosity has no limits and whose mercy surrounds every moment of existence, whose kindness reaches the believer even before words are spoken, whose wisdom encompasses not every unseen detail, whose love for His servants exceeds their own understanding, whose doors remain open day and night for those who turn toward Him with humble praise and recognition of His endless perfection, His absolute authority, and His unmatched compassion toward those who remember Him sincerely and call upon Him with hearts filled with honor and gratitude. for his countless favors and blessings that continue without interruption across every moment of life and every breath granted to. Not humanity sending blessings upon Prophet Muhammad Arabic Sada Arabic Lam Arabic Alif Maksura Arabic Alif Arabic Lam 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 Arabic Meme before. Making a request to Allah is one of the most beautiful and powerful etiquettes of dua. It connects the believer to the most beloved servant of Allah and elevates the supplication spiritually. When a person sends salawat, they are not only honoring the messenger Arabic Zada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif Magzura, Allah, Arabic Teen, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabica, 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 Arabic Meme, but also demonstrating love, gratitude and obedience to Allah, who himself commands the believers to send peace and blessings upon his prophet. This act transforms the atmosphere of dua, making it filled with respect, mercy and acceptance. Salawat is a reminder of the immense role Prophet Muhammad Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif Maksura, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, 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 Arabic Meme, played in guiding humanity toward Allah. Through him, the Quran was revealed, faith reached hearts, and the path to salvation became clear. Sending blessings acknowledges that every act of worship, including dua, is learned through his example. The believer recognizes that without his teachings, they would not know how to pray, how to seek forgiveness, or how to not call upon Allah properly. This awareness fills the heart with appreciation and love. Scholars explain that beginning dua with salawat raises the status of the supplication. It is reported that dua remains suspended between the heavens and the earth until blessings are sent upon the Prophet Salli Allah upon Salli. When salawat is included, it becomes a means of acceptance because Allah already accepts prayers made for his beloved messenger. By surrounding personal requests with salawat, the believer places there not needs within an act that is already beloved to Allah. Sending blessings also softens the heart and increases humility. It reminds the believer of the character of Prophet Muhammad, Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lif Maksura, Arabic Lif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lit, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lim, his patience during hardship. His forgiveness toward enemies, his compassion toward the weak, and his constant reliance upon Allah. Reflecting on his life encourages the believer to approach Allah with similar sincerity and humility. The act of salawat becomes more than words, it becomes a spiritual connection that strengthens faith and love. Another wisdom behind salawat is that it brings blessings back to the person making it. Every time someone sends blessings upon the Prophet, Arabic Sada, Arabic Lem, Arabic Alif Maksura, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lef, Arabic Lem, 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 Allah sends multiple blessings upon that person in return. This means mercy, forgiveness, and divine care descend upon the believer even before they present their personal needs. The servant begins their dua already surrounded by Allah's mercy, increasing hope and confidence while asking. Salawat also helps focus the mind. Not during dua. Many people struggle with distraction while supplicating, but when they start by reciting Allahumma Salli ala Muhammad, their attention shifts toward remembrance. The rhythm of salawat calms thoughts and prepares the heart for sincere conversation with Allah. It transitions the believer from worldly concerns into a state of worship and presence. Including salawat reflects love for the Prophet Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif Maksura, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabica, Arabicat, 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 Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme. And loving him is an essential part of faith. A believer demonstrates gratitude for not his sacrifices, his prayers for his ummah, and his concern for the guidance of humanity. Sending blessings becomes a response to that love, a way of maintaining connection across time and distance. Even today, every salawat reaches him, and he responds with peace upon those who send it. Another benefit of sending salawat is that it removes spiritual barriers. Sin, heedlessness, and weakness often weigh heavily on the heart, making a person feel distant from Allah. Salawat acts as purification, not gently drawing the believer back into closeness with their Lord. As blessings are sent upon the Prophet, Arabic Zada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif Maksura, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ya, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme. Mercy descends and the heart becomes more receptive to hope, forgiveness, and reliance. The believer is encouraged to send salawat at the beginning of dua. within the dua and at its conclusion. This surrounds the supplication with an honored act of worship, increasing its beauty and spiritual value. It teaches patience and proper etiquette, reminding the believer that approaching Allah is not rushed, but done with reverence and love. Through consistent salawat, the believer develops a stronger relationship with both Allah and His Messenger sallallahu upon sali. The tongue becomes accustomed to remembrance, the heart becomes filled with tranquility, and dua transforms from a simple request into an act enriched with gratitude, love, humility, and spiritual awareness that aligns the servant with a tradition practiced by generations of believers who sought closeness to Allah through honoring His beloved. Not profit and recognizing the immense blessing of being part of His ummah while standing before Allah in hope, respect, and sincere devotion filled with reverence and longing for divine mercy and acceptance. Sincerity is the soul of dua, and without it, words become empty sounds rather than a true conversation with Allah. When a believer asks Allah with sincerity, they turn toward Him alone, free from showing off, pride, or dependence on anyone else. The heart recognizes that only Allah has the power to give, to change situations, and to respond to hidden needs. This realization transforms dua from a routine habit into an intimate act of worship filled with honesty and vulnerability. Sincere dua begins when a person speaks to Allah as the one who already knows every secret, fear, and hope. There is no need for complicated language or memorized phrases. Allah understands every language, every whisper, and even the silent feelings that cannot be expressed in words. A sincere heart speaks, not naturally, admitting weakness and need without pretending strength. The believer acknowledges their dependence on Allah and confesses that they cannot succeed without divine help. Ikhlas or sincerity requires that the intention behind dua is purely for Allah. The believer does not make dua to impress others, to appear religious, or to fulfill social expectations. Instead, the supplication comes from genuine faith and trust. Even when alone, unseen by anyone, the servant turns toward Allah. Not because they believe He is always listening. This private connection strengthens faith because it removes the desire for recognition from people and replaces it with longing for Allah's pleasure. Sincerity also means asking Allah with emotional honesty. A believer does not hide sadness, confusion, or fear from Allah. They express pain openly, cry if needed, and admit their struggles. The prophets themselves made heartfelt duas filled with emotion, showing that vulnerability before Allah is not weakness but strength. When someone pours their heart out sincerely, dua becomes healing, allowing burdens to be released into Allah's care. Another aspect of sincerity is acknowledging one's shortcomings and sins. Before asking for blessings, the believer reflects on personal mistakes and seeks forgiveness. This humility cleanses the heart and prepares it to receive mercy. Recognizing faults prevents arrogance and reminds the servant that every blessing is a gift rather than an entitlement. True sincerity grows when a person understands that they stand before Allah not because of perfection but because of His mercy. Consistency strengthens sincerity. When dua is made only during crises, sincerity can be mixed with desperation alone. But when a believer regularly speaks to Allah during ease and hardship, the relationship becomes genuine and balanced. Daily conversations with Allah create familiarity and closeness, turning dua into a natural part of life rather than a last resort. Sincerity also involves trusting Allah's wisdom while asking. The believer asks passionately yet accepts that Allah knows what is best. This balance between desire and submission reflects deep faith. A sincere heart seeks good outcomes but remains content with Allah's decision, knowing that divine knowledge surpasses human understanding. Removing distractions helps cultivate sincerity. Finding a quiet moment, raising hands, focusing the mind, and speaking slowly allows the heart to become fully present. When attention is directed completely toward Allah, sincerity grows naturally. The believer feels as though they are standing before their Lord, speaking directly without barriers. Sincerity in dua also transforms character. A person who regularly asks Allah sincerely becomes more humble, patient, and hopeful. They begin to rely less on worldly solutions alone and more on divine guidance. This reliance strengthens inner peace because the believer knows they are never alone in their struggles. Even short duas made sincerely carry immense value. Allah looks at the condition of the heart rather than the length or beauty of words. A simple plea whispered with genuine faith can be more powerful than long speeches spoken without presence of heart. Sincerity gives life to dua, making every word meaningful and every request an act of devotion rooted in love, trust, humility, and complete reliance upon Allah, allowing the servant to experience closeness that transcends not circumstances, while standing before their Creator with honesty, openness, and a heart fully turned toward the one who knows every hidden intention and responds to every sincere call made with true faith and complete submission to His mercy and wisdom. Asking Allah with strong faith and certainty is one of the most powerful conditions of dua. A believer does not merely repeat words, but speaks with deep conviction that Allah hears, understands, and has the absolute ability to respond. Certainty not transform supplication from a doubtful wish into a confident act of worship. When a person raises their hands while believing that Allah is capable of changing any situation, their heart becomes filled with hope rather than hesitation. Faith in dua begins with recognizing Allah's unlimited power. Nothing is difficult for Him. What seems impossible to human understanding is effortless for the Creator who formed the universe from nothing. When believers remember this reality, they stop limiting not their requests based on worldly logic. They ask for guidance, healing, success, forgiveness, and relief, while trusting that Allah controls every outcome. Certainty allows the believer to ask for great things without fear, because divine generosity has no limits. Doubt weakens the connection between the servant and Allah. When someone makes dua while thinking it will never be accepted, the heart becomes distant and discouraged. Certainty requires pushing away whispers of hopelessness and replacing not them with trust. A believer reminds themselves that Allah is Al-Qadir, capable of all things, and Al-Sami, the one who hears every call. This mindset strengthens patience and keeps the believer hopeful even when answers are not immediate. Having certainty does not mean demanding a specific outcome. Rather, it means trusting that Allah will respond in the best way. The believer asks sincerely while believing that every dua receives attention from Allah. Sometimes the answer comes quickly, not sometimes it arrives later, and sometimes Allah replaces the request with something better. Certainty allows peace regardless of how the response unfolds, because the believer trusts divine wisdom more than personal expectations. Strong faith in dua also requires presence of heart. Instead of rushing through supplication mechanically, the believer focuses fully on Allah while asking. They visualize standing before their Lord, aware that Allah is near and attentive. This awareness strengthens not emotional connection and prevents the tongue from speaking while the heart remains distracted. Certainty grows when a person feels truly engaged in the moment of supplication. Another important aspect of certainty is hope balanced with humility. The believer approaches Allah confidently yet respectfully, knowing they are asking the most merciful while also acknowledging personal weakness. Hope encourages persistence, while humility protects against arrogance. Together, they create a sincere state, not where the servant feels both hopeful of acceptance and grateful for the opportunity to ask. Past experiences often strengthen certainty. When believers reflect on previous moments where Allah helped them unexpectedly, their faith deepens. Remembering answered prayers, protection from harm, or blessings received without planning builds confidence that Allah continues to respond. These memories become evidence that encourages the believer to keep making dua with unwavering trust. Certainty also not protects against impatience. Many people abandon dua when results do not appear quickly, assuming their supplication was ignored. True faith understands that delay does not mean rejection. Allah's timing operates according to wisdom unseen by human eyes. Maintaining certainty during waiting periods is itself an act of worship, because it demonstrates reliance on Allah beyond immediate results. Believers strengthen certainty by repeating positive thoughts about Allah's mercy and generosity. Not speaking well of Allah, expecting goodness from Him, and believing in His compassion cultivate optimism. This mindset removes despair and replaces it with spiritual strength. Even during hardship, the believer continues to ask confidently, knowing that Allah never turns away a sincere servant. When certainty fills the heart, dua becomes a source of peace rather than anxiety. The believer feels comfort simply by turning to Allah, knowing their concerns are placed in the care of the one who never, not neglects His creation. This deep trust transforms fear into calmness, uncertainty into reliance, and weakness into spiritual strength, allowing the servant to stand before Allah with unwavering belief that every sincere call is heard, valued and responded to with wisdom, mercy, and perfect knowledge that encompasses every detail of life and every hidden need carried within the believer's heart as they continue asking with confidence, hope, and complete trust in Allah's boundless power. Not unpassioned approaching Allah with humility, patience, and consistency is an essential part of making dua meaningful and spiritually powerful. Humility begins when a believer recognizes their true position before Allah. No matter how strong, wealthy, or capable a person may appear in the world, they remain completely dependent upon their Creator. This realization softens the heart and removes arrogance, allowing the servant to ask Allah with sincerity and respect. Humility in dua means lowering not oneself emotionally and spiritually, admitting weakness and acknowledging that all strength and success come only from Allah. A humble heart does not demand from Allah, but requests with hope and submission. The believer understands that they are asking the King of Kings, the one who owns everything. This awareness changes the tone of supplication, making it gentle, respectful, and filled with reverence. When raising hands in dua, the servant expresses neediness, recognizing that without Allah's help, even the smallest matters cannot be achieved. Humility opens the door to mercy, because Allah loves those who turn to Him with sincere dependence. Patience is closely connected to humility. Many people expect immediate answers to their prayers, but true faith accepts that Allah's timing is perfect. Patience in dua means continuing to ask even when results are unseen. The believer understands that delays are not signs of rejection but opportunities for spiritual growth. Waiting strengthens, not reliance on Allah, and teaches endurance. Each moment of patience becomes an act of worship because the servant remains hopeful despite uncertainty. Patience also protects the heart from frustration. When expectations are tied only to quick outcomes, disappointment can weaken faith. However, when patience is practiced, the believer focuses on the act of turning to Allah rather than the speed of receiving results. This mindset transforms dua into a continuous relationship rather than a one-time, not request. The servant finds peace in knowing that every supplication is heard, even if the answer unfolds gradually. Consistency plays a powerful role in strengthening dua. Regularly calling upon Allah builds a strong spiritual connection. Instead of making dua only during crises, the believer develops the habit of speaking to Allah daily in moments of ease, gratitude, confusion, and hardship. Consistency demonstrates sincerity because it shows that the relationship with Allah is not based not solely on personal need, but on devotion and love. Making dua consistently also trains the heart to remain connected to Allah throughout life. Short daily supplications, repeated remembrance, and frequent requests for guidance keep the believer spiritually aware. Over time, this habit deepens faith and increases reliance on Allah in every situation. The servant begins to instinctively turn to Allah before making decisions, during challenges, and while experiencing blessings. Humility, patience, and consistency together create emotional resilience. When facing difficulties, the believer does not feel abandoned because they are accustomed to turning toward Allah regularly. Even when answers seem delayed, patience prevents despair and humility maintains respect for divine wisdom. This combination protects faith from weakening under pressure and encourages continued hope. Another important aspect of consistency is refusing to give up on dua. The believer continues asking even after. Not repeated delays, because persistence itself is beloved to Allah. Repeated supplication reflects trust and determination, showing that the servant believes Allah alone holds the solution. Each repeated dua strengthens spiritual discipline and reinforces reliance on divine mercy. Through humble posture, patient waiting, and consistent remembrance, the believer develops a deep sense of closeness to Allah. Dua becomes more than a request, it becomes a daily refuge where worries are released and faith is renewed. The servant learns that spiritual growth often happens during the process of asking rather than only at the moment of receiving, allowing the heart to remain devoted, hopeful, and steadfast while continuing to turn toward Allah with unwavering humility, calm patience, and persistent supplication that reflects complete dependence upon His mercy and trust in His perfect wisdom. guiding every moment of life and every unseen outcome beyond human understanding, accepting Allah's timing. And that wisdom is one of the deepest levels of faith a believer can reach while making dua. After praising Allah, sending blessings upon the Prophet, Salam Allah upon Salam Muhammad, asking sincerely, believing with certainty, and remaining patient and consistent, the heart finally learns to surrender outcomes completely to Allah. This acceptance does not mean giving up on desires. Rather, it means trusting that Allah knows what is best even when human understanding cannot see the full picture. Every believer naturally wants not immediate relief from hardship and quick fulfillment of wishes. Human nature seeks comfort, success, love, and security without delay. However, Allah's knowledge encompasses past, present, and future, while human vision remains limited to the moment. What appears beneficial today may carry harm tomorrow, and what feels like a painful delay may actually be protection. Accepting divine timing requires believing that Allah's wisdom operates beyond human perception. When a dua is made, Allah not responds in ways that perfectly align with His mercy. Sometimes He grants exactly what was asked because it is good for the believer. Sometimes He delays the answer to strengthen faith, build patience, or prepare circumstances that will make the blessing more beneficial. At other times, Allah replaces the request with something better or removes unseen harm that the believer never realizes existed. Understanding these possibilities allows the heart to remain peaceful regardless of the outcome. Not acceptance removes frustration and replaces it with tranquility. Instead of constantly questioning why something has not happened yet, the believer rests in the knowledge that Allah never ignores sincere supplication. Silence from the unseen world does not mean abandonment. It often means that Allah is arranging events in ways beyond human awareness. Trusting this process turns waiting into worship and transforms uncertainty into reliance. Believing in Allah's wisdom also protects the believer, not from comparing their life to others. People often feel discouraged when they see others receiving blessings sooner, forgetting that every person's journey is unique. Allah distributes tests and gifts according to individual needs, strengths, and destinies. Acceptance helps the believer focus on their personal relationship with Allah rather than measuring success through worldly timelines. Another dimension of accepting Allah's timing is learning contentment. Contentment does not eliminate, not ambition or hope. Instead, it balances effort with surrender. The believer continues striving, praying, and working while leaving results in Allah's hands. This balance brings emotional stability because happiness no longer depends solely on immediate achievements but on trust in divine care. Acceptance also deepens gratitude. When believers understand that every event occurs with purpose, they begin to appreciate both ease and hardship. Blessings are seen as mercy, and challenges are viewed as not opportunities for purification and growth. This perspective strengthens resilience, allowing the believer to remain hopeful even during prolonged difficulty. Letting Allah decide the outcome frees the heart from excessive worry. Anxiety often arises from trying to control what lies beyond human ability. When a person accepts Allah's decree, they release the burden of control and experience inner peace. They continue making dua not out of desperation but out of love and reliance, knowing that Allah hears every call and responds with perfect justice and mercy. Acceptance of divine timing ultimately strengthens closeness to Allah. The believer realizes that the greatest reward of dua is not only receiving what was requested but developing unwavering trust in the one who controls all affairs. Through this trust, the heart becomes calm, hopeful, and spiritually anchored, finding comfort in the certainty that Allah's plans unfold with perfect wisdom, perfect mercy, and perfect knowledge, not guiding every step of life toward what is truly best for the believer in this world and the next. Even when the path remains unseen and the answers arrive in ways beyond expectation or imagination.